Did you recognize the theme, some of you?
Copyright strike.
So some of you may not have been born when the 10,000 pyramid came out, but I thought we would have a little fun this morning, if that's okay with you all. It's that time of the year to be a little festive. I have the opportunity here to speak to the choir, if you will, when talking occupational safety and health and what we are doing and what more we can do, areas where we can improve. And I was thinking to myself, rather than me for, an hour and a half or so flapping my gums, how about incorporating it into a little fun exercise? Now, I like to play games. I have done the traditional Jeopardy. I have done the traditional Wheel of Fortune. But are you all ready to be guinea pigs of some form or fashion? Because I have yet to try the safety and health pyramid. And yes, this will require participation from all. Now, I did have to go back and do a little research to refresh myself how that game was structured. So this is a slight version of, we are not going to hammer it home identically, but we're gonna basically take the main premise of what that show is all about. And I have 6 topics. Now, whether we get through all 6 topics, we will kind of see where we're at, because I know we are all very important. We are all very busy. We all have many hats on our heads, and we all probably have to bail by noon. But we will do our best with 2 teams to have a fair and balanced, equal opportunity of play. And whomever receives the most points wins. Now, the prize is pride. Just having the pride of winning. But I kind of structured the teams where going through the introductions and kind of balancing, I think we are going to have very good representation from both sides. And Mr. Herleman, you can be Switzerland and neutral and pipe in through the chat when we get to the clue round to help both teams. Whereas Ashley, I have you on team VPP, and Wendy, I have you with team Sharp. So we will make it very clear when your team is up how you can help through the chat. So I have 6 topics. Let's take a look at our topics, shall we? Oh, shoot, Chris, I was going to do the Gene Rayburn long, skinny microphone, even though Gene didn't host 10,000 Pyramid. You remember who the host was back in the day? Of the pyramid? Was he up there? Huh? Mr. Dick Clark? All right. So we have the human touch. We have now, when I went back and did a little research, their topics, kind of like Jeopardy where they have their topics, they, had subtle hints, but they were kind of fun in terms of how they framed them. So I tried to follow the same suit here. So the human touch. These are real world issues surrounding the human being. Now, when we think about occupational safety and health and all the efforts that we are striving in our workplace, it kind of sort of surrounds the human being, does it not? So we're going to dissect a little bit into this human being and see where we go. 6 P's in a pod: programs, plans, procedures, processes, policies, and protocols. So obviously you can see where we're going there. So whomever the contestant here that is trying to guess the words that come up on the screen, all of those words in some form or fashion surround these 6 P's in this particular topic. And obviously after we get to the first round, if it's been a while since you've seen the $10,000 pyramid, which I believe has now progressed to the $100,000 pyramid hosted by Michael Strahan, I guess these days, then it will really make more sense and start and try to gel.
Mark was hoping we could pan it a little more cut off.
Oh, well, let me do better and share my screen.
Kind of hard to see when you bet it. Yeah.
And I don't believe I'm sharing my screen, aren't I? There. How's that for our cloud friends? Is that a little better?
Much better.
Thank you. Sorry
Much
about
better.
that.
Thank you.
So
Craig.
many buttons to push up here. The train kept rolling. Train kept rolling. The importance of effective training. So if your team selects that topic, it all surrounds training in some form or fashion. how training can be improved, what should be involved in training, what you all are doing already. And again, this is an opportunity for all of us to learn from each other, right? Now, I, of course, have a little, there's some tidbits to share after each and every one of these topics, but I want to hear from everyone before we finish that topic and move on to the next one. I'm not sure if this is an actual word. I scoured the Google dictionaries of the world, and I'm not so sure, but it's a word in my vocabulary. Retrospecting, inspecting. So can inspections be improved? This is a topic area that surrounds the importance of inspections. Are inspections the be all end all? How inspections can be enhanced? What should be added to inspections? Whom all should be involved? So again, if your team selects this topic, I want you to get the wheels churning up here and recall what you are doing back at your workplaces that you have found valuable, that you have found working for you, and please share with others. The fifth topic, committing to a committee, the purpose and duties of a safety committee. Of course, we know it's alive and well here in the state of Oregon. Workplace safety committees are key when it comes to sustaining safety and health management. So this topic, of course, surrounds workplace safety committees. And then finally, and this is one where I'm going to pay homage to a good friend of ours that used to work for Oregon OSHA and now works for Safe Corporation, as we did a safety in the supervisor course a handful of months ago. He dropped this acronym on everybody, and I just love it. Safety leaders wear parkas. And if it doesn't make sense to you at this point in time, just turn your head and look outside. This is the time of the year to wear parkas. Now, it just shouldn't be safety leaders wearing parkas. We all should be wearing parkas. But when we get to this topic, or if you are willing to dive into this topic, you will learn what this acronym PARCA stands for. And it all surrounds, of course, attributes of a safety leader. So with the flip of a coin, and who has a coin by chance? Anybody have a coin? Anybody have a coin? Anybody have a coin? There we go. Coin. I should have brought my big old designer novelty.
Debit card, maybe?
That's what they call it.
Debit.
Oh, my wife's been a while.
If we had Alexis in the room, we could just ask her.
Yeah.
Ready for it.
All right, so over on this side, I'm gonna have Erica over here, who's representing Team PPP. Erica, can you please call it in the air, heads or tails? This will determine who goes first. Ready, Erica?
Ready. Heads.
Foul.
Yes, it is. So Erica, you can choose. Would you like to go first with your team, or would you like to delegate it over to the other team and have them be the true guinea pigs? Entirely up to you.
I'm gonna delegate. I'm gonna see what Team Sharp has to go through.
So Team Sharp, we have Wendy and Cliff and Omar and Brian and Bo and Tim and Dale and Bobby. Who amongst Team Sharp would like to sit in the hot seat? So you need to determine who is going to sit in the hot seat, which is right up here. Who wants to be first? Now, this is the person who will not see the words behind them. If you remember $10,000 pyramid, and you will have your whole team in front of you, helping you come up with the words that are on the screen, and you can't cheat with the reflection because we brought down the drapes.
You know, as chair of the Sharp Alliance, I'm gonna delegate this to Wendy.
Oh, so we're gonna have Wendy on.
Because our team was ready with throwing it
I
off.
just posted a disclaimer. I've never seen this game before. But
Well,
I will
neither
be the
way,
guinea
that's why
pig.
we're throwing you under the bus.
Well, you know,
Okay.
now that I'm thinking of it,
I
I'm
don't
sure
know that it'll work. I don't know that it'll work if you have one of the online people in the chair
Well-
because we can see the screen.
they're gonna see.
want me to-
The chair.
I just
You
thought
want me
of
to-
that.
Not be the first.
Do you
You're
want me
gonna
to
have to
turn
go.
on my camera and face away?
Right, team, who do we want to put on the hot spot?
We can find somebody here in the room, Wendy, but I do want you to help your team, of course, come up with the hints for the person in the hot seat to come up with the word.
I can always turn my camera on and face away
All right,
if you
well,
need.
Let's put Bobby on.
We have Bobby. All right, we have Bobby. We'll get you, man.
Yeah. I don't want to embarrass myself.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
too
just like
old.
charades or.
Well, you'll see. That's once we get through this first
Oh, I
one.
love games, so.
And again, bear with me, it's the first time I've done this game, so there could be some bugs we're working out. So Bobby needs help from Dale, Tim, Bo, Brian, Omar, Cliff, and virtually Wendy. So all of you that I just mentioned, you can come up here and stand in front of Bobby because you will see the words up there on the screen. You will not see the word. You need to come up with what you believe that word is based on the hints that your team is saying. And of course, you can't say the word. You have to say any other word that relates to what you see up on the screen. All right? You have to determine a topic though first. Which topic are you going to dive into? Is it going to be the topic that surrounds the human being, the 6 Ps, training, inspections, safety committees, or safety leadership? Team Sharp, what is your topic?
Inspections. Well, the guy sitting in the chair, yeah.
All right, so you're making your way up here, so you have a good view of this, of the screen. We're gonna go inspection, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a second.
Sure idea.
Just for a second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen,
Yeah, we're gonna,
and now we're gonna get to here, so nobody sees. We're gonna do inspections, inspections, inspections. Retrospecting,
we need.
inspecting.
He's trying to cheat.
All right, now I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen.
It's just like charades.
It kind of sort of is, but you're using words, right? You're using words.
Yeah, we just did this Thanksgiving too, and nobody.
Here we go.
Now we're gonna bring it back.
You just
get your head on Thanksgiving?
Well, not that, but we did the charades.
Oh, okay.
It's like we had to tell us.
Now, there is a time limit. Andrea, could you do me a favor?
Yes.
And using this minute hand, or I guess second
I
hand,
got a stopwatch.
once it hits 12, we're just gonna give him 1 minute and see how he does. Now, that could be adjusted as the day goes on, but I'm thinking that 1 minute is enough. So Andrea, give us the go signal as soon as that second hand hits 12. Oh, thank you, Cliff. So Team Sharp, you will see a word up on the screen. You do your best to drop hints to Bobby on what that word is as fast as you can. How many your team gets will be captured. At the end of it, the team that has the most guesses correct wins great pride. How are we doing, Andrea? All right, give us the go signal as soon as it hits 12. Are we ready?
5 seconds.
We used to have that stopwatch for the bubble.
I got one.
Ready?
It's working.
Go.
Mitigation.
Danger. The Duke's up.
Risk.
What do we mitigate?
I said,
Find the meaning.
You find a hazard, you're what? The hazard.
Find something.
there you
Oh, yeah, he's got this. After
Think
you
about
find it, you think it over.
Do research.
Process it.
research. Think about it.
I do
Risk
it on-
assessment.
I do it on paperwork.
And you can skip too if you want.
Can we tell them the name of the first letter?
Not monthly, but.
How often do we do
4
inspections?
times quarterly.
Nice.
There you go.
What do we use when we use
Inspection?
do inspections? Fill it out.
Piece of paper.
Checklist. There you go. No.
We might take pictures with a,
Camera.
and we
Fill
file
out
a
a-
final,
Inspection.
There you go.
Oh.
and if we find something new, it's a,
Surprise.
Yeah.
We got the.
we might ask
Okay, what's your-
employees questions.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7.
If I ever get to professional passwords, you're mine.
That one was a tough one,
That was
wasn't
going,
it?
yeah.
That one was.
So my fault. I failed to mention that you can skip. There should be more than enough words to move on to before that minute is up. I think a minute is going to work for us. So that's good to know. Bobby,
You
great
want to
job.
use.
I mean, that's the word we couldn't.
Yeah.
Yes, come back.
Oh,
This is
there,
for
there.
you.
Analyze.
Let's leave the chance for the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's up.
All right, good start, Team Sharp. Now let's talk a little bit more about inspection, shall we? And it's kind of interesting, and the opportunity I have going to all of our conferences, and some of you may have seen some of the breakout sessions I've been fortunate to lead over the years, where if the focus of the class is identifying hazards or hazard identification, and of course that term is alive and well in the world of OSHA, whether it's the requirements we have for safety committee members, right, to be trained to identify hazards, and just general good old school hazard identification. We spend a good amount of time during the breakout session to dissect that word identification and actually morph it into maybe a better word that provides a mindset of not just identifying or observing things, but learning how those things developed in the first place. So moving from identifying hazards, because we feel that's not good enough, to actually analyzing hazards, right? So when you think of an analysis, what typically is involved? What typically is involved? Just with that word, analysis, or to analyze something.
Pick it apart.
Yeah, so you're picking it apart, you're investigating it, right? You're investigating, you're picking it apart. Normally involving maybe more eyes, more perspectives, right? Maybe more of a team approach. And again, the opportunities for safety committees to conduct those quarterly walkarounds. And again, identify those hazardous conditions, those hazardous practices, if their timing is good and they were lucky enough to find those hazardous practices, and to better understand why they are developing. And maybe even more so, how they were allowed to develop. In other words, what was the decision-making that was going on through that person's mind that made him or her resort to doing whatever you learned they were doing? So it's surrounding conditions, it's surrounding behaviors, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. How often do we inspect? That was one of the clues that was given here during the team. So safety committee rules require how often for inspections? Yeah, quarterly, just with our safety committee rule, but can that be better? Can that be improved? You know, a lot of facilities out there are not just relying on quarterly inspections, they're relying on more frequent inspections, right? Whether it's daily pre-shift inspections with certain pieces of equipment or machinery, monthly inspections, and then maybe more formal quarterly walk-around inspections with the safety committee team. And is it just the safety committee we are using, the members of the safety committee, or are we bringing in others, right? So we really go to town, and I'm no grammar expert by any stretch, but when I was thinking of that word identification, and I was researching on the good old internets what identification is actually defined as, it's the action or process of identifying someone or something, or the fact of being identified. It's not enough. It's not enough. But when we have that mindset of identifying something is not enough, now we want to pick it apart. We want to investigate it, as Bobby was talking about. Now it's a detailed examination. Think of a job hazard analysis, right? A job hazard analysis, is that not picking apart a task? Is that not picking apart a task to uncover all of the steps needed to fulfill that task? And then further picking apart all of the steps needed in that task, picking apart the physical hazards, the health hazards, any risks to ergonomics, and then finding solutions to all of those hazards. So a JHA is a great example, an A, B, an analysis of what an analysis is all about. Root cause analysis, you know, accident investigations with a heavy dose of root cause analysis. Basically, it's a reactive JHA. We're reconstructing an event that caused an injury. We're picking apart, investigating, and analyzing all of the communications, all of the events, all of the actions that led to that injury. And then we're coming up with solutions to those factors, right? Permanent solutions, interim solutions. So really, root cause analysis is nothing more than a reactive job hazard analysis, the process of separating something, right? So it comes back to hazard and how we are analyzing hazards, and then learning exposures, like you see there in that bottom visual here. You know, this is a good example of the proximity to danger, if you will, how contact is made. And when we have our field staff out there identifying hazards, analyzing hazards for employers and employees out there, we want to learn best of how employees could be exposed to that concern, how they could get injured from that concern. So our consultants and our field enforcement officers out there are analyzing not just those hazardous conditions like the slippery steps you see up here, but also learning more about how individuals can be injured from those slippery steps, and then taking it further. What's allowing those slippery steps to occur? What's allowing those slippery steps to continue? Why hasn't anything been done about it? Who is assigned to ensure that the slippery steps are taken care of? Who is the one out here assigned to inspect this area? Because we've been missing mid rails and the stair railing for a good portion of time. So moving beyond just observing and identifying and further analyzing, breaking things down into individual components like this. Safety committee conducts a walk around inspection. See anything wrong here? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Got exposed chains.
We have an exposed chain and sprocket, right?
Rotating shaft.
A rotating shaft. But what else do you see in the picture?
Sharp edges.
Okay, the sharp edges, the hazard. Well, what do you see back here? There is a guard.
Somebody tried.
Somebody tried. Is it good enough?
Oh, shit.
Can we go beyond identifying this as a concern and just checking it off on the checklist? And can we learn more about it? Why was this allowed to continue? How was this allowed to continue? Why does the
Who
guard?
thought it was okay?
Yeah, maybe it's individuals that thought it was okay. So what might that lead to?
Education.
More training, more education. If you uncover the fact that, okay, we don't have the issue with people thinking that this was okay, it was just a matter of not being caught during inspections, well, maybe we're not covering this area thoroughly enough. Maybe we don't have our inspectors in this area educated to the point in knowing what to look for, right?
Hey,
Or
Craig,
asking questions. Yes.
how often do we all hear it's been like that for years and nothing's ever happened, so it must be okay?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The guard is in place. It's been like this forever, so we assume, right? We all know what happens when we assume. We assume that it is all okay. So this could lead to, you know, those root causes that we always want to find ourselves uncovering during an accident investigation, but we need to switch it around here and make it a proactive accident investigation in essence, and look at this as an accident in waiting. Let's treat our hazards as if they are accidents already and pounce on our hazards just like we would pounce on an accident to further investigate. Here's another one. Inspections. They're important, but do they uncover everything? Now, just walking by and you see, it looks like a guardrail situation, it looks like we're up at elevation. And if we don't get any closer to kind of further and more closely inspect this guardrail, it could look okay from a distance, right? But upon further review, not as okay as we once thought. So are our inspections thorough enough where we are taking very close looks at what we believe we might be seeing from a distance? Now, again, assuming that it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to get too close to a precarious situation just for the sake and the purpose of conducting an inspection. But based on your assessment, if it's safe to kind of, you know, come to some close proximity and shake that guardrail a little bit, something like this could be discovered.
You do have the red line there to warn you not to get too close to the guardrail.
Yeah, maybe we have some additional administrative
There you go,
controls,
it's a
right?
mystery.
So moving from identifying to analyzing, this is one of my favorite pictures, even though you really don't see much in this picture. So let's say I'm assigned to do my quarterly walk around inspection in this area of the plant, but I have 15 hats on my head. I have 2 meetings to get to. I have 2 reports to get done, and lunch is still going to happen, hopefully sometime during that time. So I'm going through this area and I see, what do I see up here? Kind of hard to see in this picture for some maybe, but ladder. Looks like a fairly lengthy extension ladder resting up against some sort of,
Boiler or something.
yeah, boiler, cylindrically shaped vessel, if you will. So what would be some things that come to mind here? If you did take the time, stop in your tracks and analyze it beyond just identifying it.
That's a ladder on a second level too.
That's a ladder on a second level. So now the guardrail that's up there on the catwalk, you know, the purpose has kind of been defeated once workers are up on the ladder, but we don't see any humans in this picture, do we? We don't see any humans in this picture. But just because we don't see humans in this picture doesn't mean we can't stop and analyze it as if it was a future accident. Oftentimes ladders resting against cylindrical or rounded objects, what could be a concern?
Slides.
Yeah. Is it secured? Is it latched?
You could have a person who's already used it and gotten up out of sight.
Yeah. And come to find out, maybe that person, because we don't see it, is, because we don't see them, is possibly in a confined space.
Or it's already fallen.
Or has already fallen, hope not, right? So there's much more to learn. Unfortunately, what we come across on occasion are folks just making sure that the inspection is done. Nothing is happening here in terms of any, current activity, so they just move on, right? when in fact there's many questions to ask, many things to learn, just because human beings are not there at that moment in time. So it's just a matter of looking at hazards and considering those hazards as future accidents. And even the experts out there in the field, whether they write books or they do podcasts or they're on the lecture circuit, they're talking about, treating hazards as if they are symptoms to bigger problems, treating hazards as if they are an accident in waiting. And let's pounce on those hazards through our quarterly walkarounds, through our monthly walkarounds. Let's pounce on those hazards as if they are accidents and do a little hazard cause analysis and not wait for root cause analysis because the injury occurred. So a little bit more on inspections before we get to round two. What makes inspections effective?
In my opinion, it's not just seeing things, but it's planning to solve any issues that are found.
Yeah.
When you reach that point, you're doing effective inspections. But then there's another piece to that, in my opinion.
I also find that pictures and communication are key as well.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where Cliff was going,
Yeah.
Wendy.
Not just to the team that saw it,
Right,
everybody.
right.
Here's what we saw, here's what we did. We want you to know. If you see it, fix it. Or report it.
So what are we gonna do and how are we gonna handle this laundry list? How are we gonna prioritize? Because obviously it's the maintenance department that's gonna receive quite a list of fix-its after a walk-around inspection, right? So
But
so weird. Go ahead.
The other important thing with the communicating is what we found and how we fixed it is don't unfix it.
Yes.
Don't put it back the way it was, because now we're working backwards.
We see that.
Exactly. We don't want that kind of job security, do we? And how about bringing in others? Non-safety committee members, maybe others from other areas, right? Where fresh eyes, fresh perspectives could play a role. So some of you may have seen this graphic before, and if you have, please don't shout out the answer, but I'm going to present to you a fairly lengthy sentence. And we're going to go about 30 seconds with more of the Dick Clark $10,000 pyramid theme song. During those 30 seconds, I would like each and every one of you, even folks on Team VPP, to count the number of times you see the letter F appear in this sentence. The letter F. Are we ready? Let me cue up Dick Clark and $10,000 pyramid. 30 seconds. Count the number of times you see the letter F appear in the box. And now. Now, I know we don't have the largest group here, and I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but from my experience presenting this lengthy sentence and asking folks to count the number of times they see the letter F, I have heard numbers ranging from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, sometimes 7. And I'm not making that up. So far, that tells you that there are different perspectives. There are different ways of looking at things. So think about the number of times you saw the letter F. Does it match up? Oh, Brian. What word, if you did not come up with 6, did your brain skip over? And according to the experts out there, that's oftentimes how the human brain works. We tend to overlook things that on appearance are not as significant as what our brain.
If you take a
perceives.
speed reading class, they teach you not to read the F and the.
Yeah, and focus on what appears to be the more significant words, right? Whereas last time I checked, the word of or and or if, those conjunctions are still pretty important in putting together sentences, but we're not here for a grammar class. We're here for occupational safety and health and what we can do better. So if we bring in fresh eyes, fresh perspectives, our laundry list might end up being a little longer, but chances are we're doing pretty good at vetting out the things we should be vetting out. And again, if we move from identifying to further analyzing and really dissecting those issues, I'm not sure what more you can do better. So pretty interesting exercise. And this is one of my favorite pictures, just to bring in different perspectives. When you see this can of paint stripper, what is the very first thing you see on the label here of this metal canister? Just the very first thing you see.
Airplane.
It's an airplane.
Yeah.
It's aircraft paint remover. Don't forget to read the small print. Do not use on aircraft. Now, how many sets of eyes out there will catch that? Or is flipping the thing around and reading the small print. And this was actually taken from a compliance inspection down out of our Eugene office, one of my most favorite pictures. So don't forget to read the fine print, but some eyes might skip over that. So other eyes can help.
In a place they did work on aircrafts.
Yes, yes, yes. So how are we structuring inspections? Are we doing them announced? Are we conducting them unannounced? Do we kind of flip flop and do some announced, do some unannounced? From an Oregon OSHA perspective, we really don't, our focus is on employers and employees taking inspections seriously and doing everything they can with the resources they have to uncover all of the issues and hopefully further analyze. Whether they announce them or they do not announce them is entirely left to the facility. Whatever works best for them works best for us, as long as they are vetting out those hazardous conditions and uncovering those hazardous work practices. And then what about that infamous light switch? The light switch for the better. Have any of you walked around the corner and immediately noticed the forklift operator slowing down? Or the safety glasses immediately coming on, or the seat belt immediately being buckled when they know they're being inspected? Kind of like me driving down one of Oregon's freeways and looking in the rearview mirror and seeing me now being audited by a car with that has flashers up on the top. What's our first instinct when we know we are being inspected?
Focus.
Yeah, refocus, am I doing the right thing? So think about it. If you turn the corner with your safety committee inspection team, for example, and you see forklifts slow down, or you see seat belts immediately being clicked, or you see safety glasses immediately coming on in the shipping and receiving department when you're around the corner, is that a bad thing?
It's not doing a symptom of it.
Okay, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they're doing the right thing when they see you, but it could be a symptom of some underlying behavior problems. Because when you're not around, they're not following the right way.
Bingo. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you you have an enormous education issue here?
I think engagement.
Yeah, it's not so much an education issue, is it? It's not so much a training issue. They know what they need to be doing. You just saw it because that switch was flipped, because now they know they are being audited at that moment in time. Now,
It's not a safety culture.
yeah, it's more of a culture issue. It could be an enforcement issue. It could be an accountability issue. Could be a supervision issue. You don't have a learning or an education issue because they know what they need to be doing, right? Just like when the state trooper sees my brake lights immediately being debated. He or she knows I know the speed limit. I just need to be enforced more often. All right, we need to move on to the next round. So, okay, let's talk this and then we'll move on to the next round. So, Joe, you just made this comment. We see something that could lead us to bigger problems. And this goes back to when we are uncovering hazards out there, whether it's a hazardous condition or a hazardous behavior, are we analyzing it to the point to learn more about it? Is it a truly bigger problem? This particular, well, see this right here. We see a screwdriver jammed into an interlock on a baler. You think the baler manufacturer designed it in a way for screwdrivers from the lab to be shoved into it? Probably not. Chances are they're shoving a screwdriver into the interlock to bypass something, right? So that's a hazard that could easily be vetted during a walk-around inspection. But is there more to learn here? Can we root cause analyze this even though there wasn't an injury? Yes, and that's what we hope safety committees and others out there are doing, is not just checking it off the sheet and moving on, scolding somebody and moving on. It's analyzing it. It's doing something about it, right? Similar to this, what's the first thing you see when you see this picture? Fairly sizable floor hole. So we're obviously at another level here, maybe a second level, bringing stock down. Any of you try to carry a box climbing up and down a ladder? Down below them is the storefront where the orders are placed. Then they call upstairs and 2 guys up here will grab the product and bring it down to the storefront. Now, not the most efficient, could be done better. Did I mention they're all wearing rollerblades up there?
Oh, no.
Have you ever tried climbing up and down a ladder wearing rollerblades?
That'd be easier. What?
But they're very efficient at what they do. And again, this is not a Photoshop creation. This is not a Google search. This was scanned by me from an inspection file from this office, the Portland office. This was found during a compliance inspection. So there's at least 2 pros in the Portland area years ago that felt it was a good decision to wear rollerblades climbing up and down ladders. Culture issue, something that leads to a bigger problem issue, more to learn here. That's where we want to go with inspections. All right. Team Sharp, Team VPP, I need somebody in the hot seat, please. That'd be me.
You ready for it? It's fire, brother.
All right, not gonna hear my screen yet. Hold on, cloudy friends, hold on. So retrospecting, inspecting is gone off the board. We are down to 5 remaining topics. Team VPP, which topic would you like to select?
We can't see the cameras. This Mark.
No, they
can hear your
monitor.
Yes, I'm not sharing my screen at the moment. I will here in a second.
You guys say human touch, human touch. What do you want?
Human touch.
Human touch?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, you're gonna like this if you're a Rick Springfield fan, like my wifey. Hold on.
ACDC.
All right, now I'm going to share my screen.
That's funny.
This slide makes my wifey very proud because she loves Rick Springfield. All right, I'm sharing my screen. We all can see it in here. Our contestant in the hot seat cannot see the words coming up. Andrea, I will need 1 minute on the clock. Let me get my writing utensil here. Human touch. These are real world issues surrounding the human being. Team VPP, please do your best in helping your fellow teammate in the hot seat come up with the words that will be presented on the screen. All right, Andrea.
What?
It's the way things are. You don't want to change.
Complacency.
Ooh,
Very good.
Gotta have a positive attitude. You gotta have a very good, along with an attitude, you gotta demonstrate good.
Actions a result of conditions or
An observable act. What somebody's doing.
and you can skip to.
How people,
Skip.
pump somebody up, make them feel good about work.
Encourage. The reason why
Actions are
they do
based on, actions are based on.
deeds.
You can skip.
It makes them feel good about what they're doing.
Oh, compliment. Reasons why somebody does something. An actor might need this before they do a scene.
Intrinsic,
That's my.
It's the tough one.
intrinsic,
Yep.
extrinsic. I have a vested blank in something.
Stop.
Oh, damn, let's see what the other one is.
Let's give them a minute. These are harder than the other one. Really harder.
Godly's,
One more minute. These really are hard. See here.
Not that I want to glow.
In God we,
Let's see.
in God we.
Yeah, in money.
It's on money.
In God
It's staying
we-
on money.
Trust. Bingo. Next.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the best policy.
you gotta be straightforward and
If you're telling the truth, you are honest.
Nice. Next.
Sometimes everyone needs a little help.
Nice. Next.
I can't get no. Aretha Franklin hit. Aretha Franklin hit in the 60s.
Respect.
Nice.
show compassion or concern, you blank about something. I really.
Health blank is very expensive. Healthcare.
Nice. Well, you guys are good. You guys are good. Are they still on time?
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Oh, what was one we missed? This was tough.
You get out there and you really try to, the team out in the field. And
Chris Farley's kid.
Oh, Chris Farley's, yeah.
Monday morning, you gotta get yourself plugged in for work. What do you need? Not coffee, but
We won't go there.
We'll get you out of bed in the morning.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Good job. Good job. Those are tough. So these are some of the words that they were trying to help you with. Motivation, interest. Yeah, yeah. Good job, though. Good job. This was certainly tougher than the other round. So.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. I was kind of curious how that one would go out. Hey, thanks, Omar. Thanks for attending. So let's talk about the humans and how they relate to the world of occupational safety and health, and a little about this whole attitude versus behavior. What can we do about those attitudes? Well, actually, let me ask you this right from the get-go. What differentiates attitude versus behavior? Because I think these are two words where a lot of people just, might say one but mean the other, and vice versa. I'm going to start with an attitude here. When you think attitude, what comes to mind?
Pride.
Okay. It's pride.
I mean, it's not gonna happen to me.
Okay, okay. It'll never happen to me syndrome, pride, or maybe in some cases the lack of pride, right? Where the attitude is not as positive. Thank you. We're losing. Oh, is it the game show? Is it the nerves setting in? I don't want to be on the hot
So
seat.
he told us he had cut out of here.
So attitude is internal, right? Attitude is up
What you're
here.
saying, just like your demeanor, how you approach things. You've got bad attitude, you have a negative outlook on things.
Right. So then how does that translate to this next word then, behavior? That's more extrinsic, isn't it? That's more observable.
That's what they're actually doing.
What everyone sees, right, example.
So now we go back to inspections, the previous topic, and if we're missing out on a lot of the behaviors and practices that we should be finding, because whether it's the light switch, whether it's our timing, that's not all that great, right? Remember, maybe it's inspecting an area that is down at the time, so we don't see any processes taking place, we don't see any actions, we don't see any practices. It doesn't really make for much of an effective inspection. So if we're lucky enough, and I use that word, if we're lucky enough to come across risky or hazardous behaviors, that can tell us everything we need to know about maybe what's going on here. And you hit a word that, of course, is alive and well in the entire world of occupational safety and health, and that is just culture, right? Is our culture established to the point where we can maintain as much of a positive attitude amongst our crew, amongst our workforce as best we can? And if we find that we might have to do more things to motivate them, right? What could be some things that you all have done, including Ashley and Wendy and Mark chime in as well, to motivate workers out there? What have you done over the course of time at your facilities to motivate or get people interested in doing something in the spirit of safety and health?
Make it fun.
Okay, also, what have you all done at your place, Erica?
Just, not necessarily, giving donuts or those types of things, but, making it interesting, making people want to participate, want to feel like you're part of something. That type of stuff.
So maybe a little recognition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We did rewarding. Rewarding if when the safety inspector would come by or somebody was auditing somebody, if they catch you in a safe act,
Yeah.
then they would share the Mickey Mouse dollar with you, which is still good at the vending machine. So that you can go spend and maybe get a cookie or whatever out of the vending machine and break time.
Right.
Just little things like that to make it, hey, it could be inspected at any time. You might as well do it safe, and encourage.
And that has seemed to have shifted over the years, that paradigm shift. I have one of the slides up here talks about leading indicators versus trailing indicators, right? And a lot of workplaces out there will measure their performance, if you will, towards safety and health, but relying solely on trailing indicators. We've gone so many days or so many, weeks without a what? A
Lost time.
Recordable injury.
a reported recordable injury or illness. And what you see on that big banner is probably true. They did go that long without a reported
Right.
recordable because the price,
Mess up the
yeah,
number.
yeah, the price might be so attractive that folks are covering.
No one's
Injuries.
corny, no one's corny up in Gresham. They went years without a recordable injury. It was like, I mean, I was there and we celebrated 7 years of no recordable injury. So they bought these nice steaks for everybody and had to cater and everything else to reward it. Gave them cash bonus on top of that.
Yep.
7 years.
Wow.
It's a long time.
And it was a true legitimate 7 years of zero recordable injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Again, the culture needs to support that honest and open environment, right? Where
I agree.
employees would otherwise report an injury if they learned of, or they were the ones that sustained the injury. So the culture has to support that honest and open, type of environment for that to happen. And again, we have come across a lot of facilities out there where what we see on the banner or what we see on the big sign is not true, as we later learned, conducting employee interviews and what have you. So we want to turn their mentality around, that employer's mentality around to something like we're talking over here. Let's reward the folks for doing the things that they are supposed to be doing, right? So again, making our inspections very effective while conducting the inspections. If we are catching them in the act, but it's the right act, can we reward them that way? Can we recognize them that way? And whatever the company wants to do, whether you mentioned the Mickey Mouse,
A Mickey Mouse dollar.
Dollars.
Something that's good in the vending machine.
something like that. So involving them, the radio station here, WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? So who better to create the forklift pre-shift inspections, but who? Forklift operators, and or maybe the mechanics can also pipe in. Who better to create or revise the lockout procedures?
Those locking out the machine.
Those locking out the machines, right? So we're using our resident experts, we're using our subject matter experts, but we're also involving them in the process. So once they draft and create their lockout procedures, their confined space entry permits, their inspection checklist, there's some ownership, right? There's some attachment there. And for a lot of us humans, and again, attributes of being a human being here, if we were involved in making something happen, and especially if that something turns out to be a good thing, we tend to take a little pride in that. There's that word again. We take a little ownership in that. And we don't want anyone to violate our baby because this has become our baby, right? So we're empowering them, we're recognizing them. Now, for managers out there, again, I'm speaking to the choir. If you're a Sharp or a VPP company, you have the resources, the time to come to meetings and training like this. I probably don't need to stand up here and go on and on and on about how we can get buy-in from our managers out there, but still there's some times where we're not maybe getting as much buy-in as we would like. So is it more of the same for them? Can we involve them as best we can? Use their noodle? Consider them as a subject matter expert, so they'll hopefully attach themselves to it, little ownership, right? Little involvement, but also maybe speaking their language and reminding them of the dividends that come from a safe and happy workforce, right?
Great. Some years ago, we had a plan, kind of rolled that up. It's something that just popped in my mind. We had a plan to hit a 1-year anniversary, no recordables. And they wanted to have a celebration. So the plant manager and I were talking, and he said, okay, however, I want you to do a training presentation about what could be the insignificance of this. I don't know if y'all remember, there was the pizza party from Comedy TV.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I happened to have that video and showed it to him, and he said, you show that and I'll be at the meeting. And it was just that reminder,
Right.
this event, this celebration is only meaningful if we're continuing to do the right things. And we got here by doing the right things. And it made such an impact with that group. But that was a manager, and this was a site that was not BPP, but was trying to go there. Just, there's a manager bought in
Yeah.
and wouldn't let go. And so I just think that's
I can't remember the pizza party. They had like an incident during the pizza party.
I've never seen it.
Everybody at each machine. like,
Yeah, everyone got hurt. The manager ran her to get pizzas and drinks to celebrate.
Oh, no.
And told him he was coming back to celebrate. When he came back, they all got hurt. He dragged a chair over just like this, climbed up on it to change the sign. The chair slips, the sign falls, cuts his head off, rolls across the floor. And the end of it is, you guys know what this means, right? Pizza party. So it's really,
Yeah.
there was a manager who really understood after years of facing injury.
Yeah.
No, I don't want them to become complacent and expect to celebrate just because they're doing what they should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to have some meaning. So I think, and that's the point that happens to us too frequently. We celebrate, but it doesn't have meaning at all.
And we maybe focus on the things as part of that overall mission that we shouldn't be focusing on as much and not appreciating the things that need to be done to lead up to the eventual pizza. But oh my gosh, Brian, that video is so over the
No,
top.
I'm gonna have to pull it up.
Silly.
I think I've heard about it.
All right, good job. That was a tough one, but man, good job. Thanks for being willing to be in the hot seat. All right, Team Sharp, I need another contestant. Team Sharp, I need another contestant. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can get to the topics.
Yeah,
Team Sharp, I need a contestant.
there's your manager. See how it
Put that one on my head.
Oh.
Right.
6 Ps in a pod. 6 Ps in a pod, train kept a rolling, committing to a committee, and safety leaders wear parkas.
Yeah.
Which one do you like? Train
You know,
kept a rolling,
throw
or
one
have
at me.
effective training?
Sure.
Let's do that one. Train kept a rolling.
We're gonna do train kept a rolling?
I read 6 Ps, but all that.
All right, let me get to train kept a rolling. I'll make sure our virtual friends are all connected here.
Might be.
I'm gonna share my screen, make sure the cameras are working again. They may have just timed off. Let's see, sharing my screen.
It looks like the camera did click off.
Did the camera click off?
Yeah, if you go out.
Chris, can you
No,
see?
it's working now.
Nope.
Okay.
Well, we can see your screen now, not the camera. But that's.
Oh, you can't see that? You can't see our contestants in the hot seat?
No.
Correct.
Shoot, has that always been the case?
No.
No, not
Just the
earlier.
first one is the only one we got to see now we can see him.
You don't need to see me.
Oh, no, that's part of it.
He's looking good, Mark. You want to see him.
Hi, Bo.
Looking a little nervous.
Let's see, can I zoom in on the sweat?
Uh,
Oh, there's no sweat there. All right, so I'm sharing my screen and all kinds of buttons to push up here, sorry. Brian, you were very kind to me with all those words. It's just a matter of pushing all kinds of buttons up here.
How many minutes do we get for this one?
Well, let's see, we'll start with a minute, but this might be a tough one too. All right, Andrea. We had, whoops, hold on. Oh, see all these buttons to push.
Need the clicker.
All right, Bo.
Ready?
All right.
There we go. Picture of old Zig Ziglar up there. The only thing worse than training good employees and having them leave is not training your employees and keeping them. This topic is train kept a rolling, the importance of effective safety and health training. Back to Team Sharp. Andrea, we had a good time to start the clock.
Yep, ready, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I got it here.
Head.
I have the knowledge.
There you go. Something
have a lot
that
of-
you know, substitute for the
If you put in the time you gain,
Years of,
Ben.
years of service. But
with
you
service
bring-
comes,
A lot of, there you go.
There you go.
It's a song.
good.
Tool,
Well, it would be something that you.
Something you're good at.
equipment, skill.
There you go.
Watch, learn, do is also
Others.
called.
Learn to do is also called observe.
Let me take you out here and show you how to do this.
Forward.
Mhm.
Yep, but if you're doing
In the field,
it.
in the field.
There's
At work.
formal learning and then there's the other learning that you do in person.
Oh, good.
Where you have them follow you on the job and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need another minute, Andrea. These are not easy.
Charade,
Show somebody.
show someone.
Teach them, you're going to,
But you're
Show
doing,
them.
you're
gonna do it first and then you're gonna watch them do it. So you are going to what?
goodness. It's not easy, but it's nice. You get these,
Cooking shows are someone doing what to show you how to do the task.
they are, giving an example, they are.
close.
Mhm.
Keep going
Other
with that.
words, yep, keep going,
Um,
synonyms.
People do this when they're doing a protest.
They,
Ah.
demonstrate.
Very good, Cliff.
Way to use the sign.
Whoa.
It's time to be.
What we use to communicate.
A language.
Bingo.
When you
when
pass
you're
the
done-
test, you get a,
Award or certificate.
There you go.
Bingo.
Okay.
sometimes that's printed on a thing
Your
that you put in your
business.
wallet.
Business card.
Card, good.
Sorry.
And when you're not sure, you ask,
I ask you something.
You're inquiring.
you
A
ask,
series of
Questions.
what do you ask?
Good. Time was up, but good answer. Woo! Oh, nice job. That's like yours, not easy. So this was the one, you were so close.
On the job.
They would go, out in the field, out in the field, you're watching somebody do it. And then let's see, you got that one, you got that one, you got that one.
Oh, shucks, one of these days I'm thinking you catch on.
Oh, my goodness. Good job. By the way, I'll thank you all a couple of times, the folks that are willing to be in the hot seat, because man, I can't, could you imagine being on the actual game show where there's
Oh, it's,
actual money potentially coming your way?
And you go,
Yeah, it's just.
When you're
mind
the
would just
person that knows the word, you're like, what's wrong with you up there? Like, right?
Oh, I know.
So what about this safety and health training? What have you found back in your workplaces, just encompassing training in general, that you all have found to have worked well?
We use training within industry or TWI. Where you illustrate, go through it several times, you show the key points, the important factors, things to be on the lookout for. And then you have the student show you 3 times and repeat back to you the important steps, key findings.
Okay.
Depending on what the training is, we will actually incorporate pictures from inspections or hazard IDs and use those as training tools.
Visuals.
Yes, and relevant, very relevant.
In your own facility.
Exactly.
and I may be telling my age. But one of the things that's one of my pet peeves, and that is online training and virtual training. In my opinion, online training is virtually useless and virtual training is just a step above. You really have to look people, to me, you gotta look them in the eye, they have to look you in the eye. Because you can sense so much when you're up as to who's not buying in and make those shifts. And you can't do that unless it's live. But that's just my age and where things are coming from.
But Cliff, you do have points because we've had to shift to a lot of computer-based training just to keep up with
Right.
onboarding and COVID, obviously.
Right.
What we've done is we've incorporated, so previously, even when we did in person, all we had people do was sign in a sheet when they came to the class. So we've incorporated quizzes. So they're knowledge-based quizzes and they are not trick questions. They're really meant to highlight the important takeaways. And then to your point, though, there's often a lot of in-person informal follow-up. Did that make sense? Do you have other questions?
Yeah, because I mean, COVID is a great example because what we saw was motivation took a major nosedive during the course of COVID issues, not only within STAR, but in VPP. And you found people just wouldn't sign up or they really weren't. It's on, but they're not connected.
Right.
And that's me. And while there are some basic general knowledge things that you can do online, because what you're doing right now to me is the best effective training. And that ties with on the job, like you talked about. That's where it happens.
How do we get people, 'cause I'm astounded at, now that we're allowed to be in person, people are not coming in person and like, because how do we get people back to
With that,
willing
yeah.
to come?
In person.
There's places where people even refuse to come one day a week to work.
Right.
It's just
Right.
amazing.
Right.
And that's a big thing we see happening too, that there's so many places that are fighting that war, getting people to leave their home.
Right. Right.
And yet I'm from the generation, and I'm not the only one, I've seen some other younger generations as well. For me, you put me at work from home, forget it. Me and the dog going for a walk, I'm gonna play my guitar. I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not gonna work, right? Yet my son can do it. I can't.
And even to this point, our safety committee used to be really large in number, and we invite people every month. We have a monthly meeting. COVID hit, we had to shrink it down. It was only about 6 members, but we put good notes out. We, address everybody, have the supervisors tell their crews. Now we're back in person. We'll keep inviting people. I gotta go home. It has changed things. It really has. So.
And sometimes.
It has, and I think each group has some pros and cons, and depending on what industry you're in and people's comfort levels, right?
Yeah,
We did the
right.
same thing with safety committee where we went all virtual, but what that allowed us to do, because a lot of our employees and teams report to supervisors in other locations, they started calling into our safety committee meetings. And so now that we've returned in person, we've kept this hybrid meeting method. And we're actually getting far more participation now than we did. And now that we're on the other side of COVID, we've expanded our safety committee and we've expanded our emergency response team because people are excited to get back involved. And that's only some of them, to your point. But we're still getting some of the others to call in from remote locations. So it definitely depends on the group you're working with.
I definitely agree that hybrid it seemed to really work for us.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting, based on, the industry, it could be based on age ranges, tenure, in terms of folks willing to come back, have that same interest or level of engagement as they had prior, or at least where you thought you were prior. But short of some sort of mandate, from leadership requiring everybody to be back, if this is a reality that we now have to address and now have to work with, what are we doing in the virtual world to at least create some strategies to engage them? Again, whether it's quizzes, not making it so difficult, like just quizzes, fun quizzes or relatively simple quizzes, just to get them to talk, just to get them to turn their camera on, just to get them to engage or submit something in chat. And allow time, maybe, if this is something that is not going away anytime soon, then just allowing time to allow those folks to kind of adapt to what is a new way of educating, training, and communicating with our folks. Because Cliff, I think we all share, when we think of adult learning principles, long before the virtual world, of course, when we're training adults out there, it's, not so much me talking. It's not so much having the person read. Those are components of it, but it's a lot of doing, right? It's a lot of hands-on doing. So just general principles surrounding adult learning. They understand why something is important to know or do because you are involving them. So I love the structure, OJT, which it sounds like that's when I was listening to how you were describing it. It just sounds to me like a very
So
structured.
it's like the important steps, the key points
Yeah.
for those important steps and the reason for the key points. And
And
you
if
go
there-
through that, and we illustrate the ineffectiveness of just telling someone how to do a job. We illustrate the effective why showing is ineffective. You got to show, tell, and explain step by step, and then you come back and you have them repeat that back. It's what they did in World War II when everybody went off to fight.
Yeah.
And everybody had, the women had to come into the factories. They didn't know how to build B-17 bombers, so they had to be able to do it rapidly and accurately. And so,
Right.
and that's when they instituted that. And then Toyota took that after the end of the war, turned it into their. So they have.
A quite enhanced show and tell.
And I think
Well, the show tell do also addresses that we all learn in different ways.
Right,
And
right.
it addresses the different learning strategies.
I think what happens a lot of times in our business too, is that we don't take the right kind of care to pick the trainers. Frequently, particularly in manufacturing, we pick the most effective person, which can be your worst choice. You need to pick the best balanced performer. It's not just productivity, it's quality, it's safety, and we will actually pick the person who produces the most. That's what the job's all about. Meantime, that person you're training never gets a hint at, how do I do this safely?
Right.
How do I make the best quality?
Right.
How do I get the full picture? Right. So I think we need to take greater care in who we utilize as trainers,
Very good point.
particularly on the job.
Very
You
good.
gotta be a motivated trainer.
Somebody who
If somebody's a trainer and they don't want to be a trainer, that's.
Got to be some level of care, some level of interest, some level of enthusiasm, the desire. And whether it's individually or even by committee, you know, if we have a few that share a lot of those attributes, you know, doing everything you can, because from an OSHA perspective, of course, we inspect all sizes of employers, right? Some employers have more resources than others, so we work with them as best we can. Okay, who do you have? Obviously, oftentimes we go to the most seasoned person, right? The most experienced person. Well, come to find out, that could have also been the luckiest person alive, because for the past 30 years, he or she was doing everything wrong, but they're still alive to talk about it. Is that the person we want as our trainer? Probably not. So sometimes we have to requalify that experience and vet out the fact that maybe they just have been awfully lucky for, you know, the past 30 some odd years. So activities, you know, making sure that the time is right, it's relevant. I love the mention earlier of using pictures right there within the facility, something that they have seen already. They're accustomed to it. They are familiar with it, keeping things at least as positive and encouraging. Again, practical, hands-on, a lot of adult learning principles. All right, we got to get through a few more rounds because I'm having too much fun. Team VPP. Now, the two individuals we lost, were they both a part of Team VPP? No, Omar was over here. Okay, so we should be in pretty good standing. Team VPP, I need a contestant, please. Team VPP, I need a contestant.
Yeah.
Oh, it knows I'm hard.
I did notice, but I didn't look, but don't look at that screen when you're over there either.
But I didn't think about that. I'm like, I was struggling on that one. I was like, oh.
So, in other words, you gave them away.
No, I just wondered if anyone else.
I have some genuinely honest people in this room. I already knew that.
I would have done a lot better had I been cheating, so I'm just saying.
All righty. But then the karma. You just got good karma for the rest of the day.
Scoot up a little pride in that.
All right, I gotta take, Chris, if we do this again in this room, we gotta remember this. All right, Team VPP, let's see, we've already done train kept it rolling. Yeah, you're more than welcome to look at this, Joe. We've already done train kept it rolling. We've already done retrospecting. We've already done the human touch. So we have 6 Ps in a pod. We have committing to a committee. We have safety leaders wear parkas.
What are you feeling?
Any idea? Well, I am honestly curious what Parker is saying.
Wear parkas, hold on, safety leaders wear parkas. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Thanks, Joe. I was hoping we'd get to that one too.
We all want to figure this out.
Well, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. So many buttons to push here. There we go. There we go. Attributes of an effective leader. All right, I'm sharing my screen. It's up on the board. My timekeeper over here, the lovely Andrea. Are we getting close to a good starting point here?
Yes, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Who's in charge of calling plays for the NFL?
Coach.
Back in the old days, you used to have a blank to show you the way through the woods. Typically would be TV.
Guide.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Like you go to school and you get a, what do you do when you go to school?
Education.
Good.
You need to like complete a task all the way to the end.
Follow through.
Oh, good.
Hey,
I swear.
that'd be a battery. Has two terminals. One's
Opposite
negative,
of
the other
negative.
is positive.
Oh, my goodness, I can't even keep up.
Good, let's keep it going. Computer operating system.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm working somewhere, I know.
I want you to do well.
I'm
I'm talking to you, give you a pep talk. I'm giving
Uplifting.
you
Motivation.
and other encouragement.
bingo.
We talked about it today. We have safety behavior, safety attributes, and safety.
And what I brought up, the subject I brought up.
Boy, George, there's a second.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
An effective facility has a good safety blanket.
Management system, plan.
Throw in the.
Close.
Oh, I already had that one up there, didn't I? All right, time is up. Good job, Joe. My goodness. There's no extra time needed here. But then I had.
Young looking, but you know,
I'm curious. I had a repeat up there.
Lead singer of,
So you did coach, you did guide, you did educate.
that was
Positive.
Which is a huge.
Encourage, I would say in other words, right?
Culture.
Console and culture. That's good.
Training on-
He said safety management.
Inspiring, I know.
All of
And then
it.
so.
All right, no, that is a tough one. Again, thank you to all the contestants, because being in the hot seat is not easy. All right, so just a little history lesson. Years and years and years ago, Oregon OSHA had a public education workshop on safety leadership. And we had a method where if a supervisor, specifically, it was a safety and the supervisor focused type of workshop, safety and the supervisor, safety leadership kind of thing. And the trainer back in the day, who has long since retired from us, came up with a 5-finger approach. And his acronym was a different acronym than what was chosen here by our friend over at SAFE, Kevin Kilroy. He wanted it to relate more towards, maybe what a lot of people tend to wear in Central Oregon, right, wearing parkas. The older acronym was TRESL, TRESLE, and it just didn't jive for him. So he came up with parka, but the same attributes, whether it was the TRESL acronym or now this parka acronym. Are we exercising proper supervision? Is there reasonable and, relevant action that we are expecting of our leadership out there, whether it's management level or not, in terms of following through the coaching, the advising, the guiding? Are we providing the resources and the support out there for our people? That's the time, that's the money, that's the equipment, right? That is again, the coaching and the training on how to conduct effective inspections or creating JHAs or conducting pre-task plans. As part of OJT, if we're expecting people out there on the shop floor to conduct OJT, what are we expecting of them? So are we training our trainers? Every now and then trainers might get overlooked in terms of the training that they should be afforded before we're expecting and relying on them to train others, right? And then the accountability aspect. So creating this acronym, PARCA. And if we had the time, we can certainly go further into the weeds on all 5 of these principles. And by the way, Eric, I saw you taking a picture. I'm going to share this slideshow with everybody, but I'll also I will also share the slideshow that Kevin and I did just a few months ago that further explains this whole PARCA principle. So you have some of the more ins and outs and details that, because we had a whole half-day workshop where we could just concentrate alone on this whole PARCA approach. So again, initially it was designed for supervisors to use this 5-finger approach just to make sure that they are justifying any type of discipline or even justifying any type of positive accountability, like before they recognize individual. Have I provided enough safety supervision to this individual where they had enough on their own in order to safely accomplish the job? Have I provided enough coaching? Have I provided enough training? Have I provided the support? Have I provided all the tools and the equipment? And have I held myself accountable to ensure that all these things were provided to the worker before I hold the worker accountable? And accountability, you know, that's that word that sometimes doesn't go over very well when you first hear it, right? I mean, honestly, when you hear or think of the word accountability, what are some other words that immediately come to mind? Yeah, not positive, but negative stuff, right? Reprimand, discipline, consequence, because if there's one factor that is always attached to the definition of accountability, it's consequence. But do all consequences always have to be negative? No, we're talking about the Mickey Mouse dollars. That's a consequence. If we're stopping a person because we are seeing them doing the right thing, we are applying a consequence in the form of a gift, the Mickey Mouse dollars or whatever the company wants to devise, right? That's a positive consequence. So accountability, I think, oftentimes gets a bad rap. Now, I'm fortunate to, you know, be up in front of a choir, if you will, and talking the good talk. But it's a matter of, you know, how leadership, how a safety committee is out there promoting the whole world of accountability within their workplace, but hopefully not always with heavy focus on negative consequence. Obviously, discipline and reprimand have to be there, because we're all human. We already went through the human touch topic, but doesn't always have to be negative, doesn't always have to be reprimand.
And thank you and an attaboy costs you nothing,
Holy moly.
but can have some profound impact on future behaviors. By just telling somebody they're doing a good job.
And from my anecdotal years of observation and research out there, it sure seems to me like the vast majority of people would rather have that nice pat on the back, kudos coming from somebody that matters to them versus having their name up on a billboard somewhere with bright lights. You know, because not everybody wants to be recognized in front of everybody, right? But a pat on the back, a kudo, an attaboy coming from a supervisor, coming from a lead, coming from somebody that they respect, holy moly, does that go a long way. So does our workplace, does our leadership support that in terms of providing the time and the resources? And if it is an incentive type program, you know, whatever gifts or encouragement that we are providing in terms of a tangible item, you know, the money and the resources in order to ensure that those things can happen. This is an older article from Professional Safety back in 2002, but I remember when I first came across it, I really liked how she approached the whole path to leadership. And what Kevin and I did over at the Bend Conference with this whole PARCA approach is not focused just specifically on supervisors. Because a safety leader, of course, it helps if they're a supervisor because that can help enhance a more positive culture towards safety and health. But any person that has the genuine interest towards ensuring a safe and healthy workplace hopefully has some good leadership attributes. So do they have insight in terms of their personal insight, but also what they know the organization can or cannot provide and kind of adjust to that. Direction, there's a mission, there's a vision, there's a strategy to get where we need to go. Are we aspiring ourselves to inspire others? And that can be through, you know, various programs. Again, it can be through some sort of recognition program and incentive. Involving them, again, empowering them. There is where we can receive some of this inspiration. Are we setting an example? And we've all heard that before. You know, if we're a role model out there, we're expected to be a role model. I represent the safety committee. I better be doing the right things, whether I know I'm being watched or not, right? Am I treating safety as a priority or am I truly valuing it? And we can spend a lot of time here dissecting those two words, right? Because priorities change. Priorities can change throughout the day. Priorities can change throughout the week. Priorities can change throughout the month based on everything else that's happening. But if it's a value doesn't get up and leave. A value doesn't change on the list. A value is there for good. And then the capability of this individual who is a leader, a safety leader. Are they accessible? Are they always there for the individuals? Are they mentoring? Are they coaching? There's a slide later on that we probably won't get to, but again, I'll share the slideshow that really uses the coach as an acronym. Again, something about acronyms in this part of the program. And it spells out the C, the O, the A, the C, and the H. And again, further attributes of what safety leaders out there should have. Are they committed to what they're doing? And then again, the 5-finger check. Are they checking themselves first, especially if they're a management person or a supervisor, before they apply some sort of consequence, whether positive or negative, on the individual? And real quickly, just to plug the Trevor Ansbro Safety Culture Spectrum that was created over at Safe Corporation. And this is easily findable on their website, just kind of showing tried and true examples of what reactive cultures provide versus just simply compliant cultures and all of the attributes that should be found in a compliant culture. But it can be better when we get to a managed culture and then a comprehensive culture. Now we're seeing all of these other factors that lean more towards positive.
Is that similar to the Bradley DuPont curve?
Yeah.
Culture maturity?
Yep. A lot of same approaches there. When you're looking at leadership, you're looking at accountability, you're looking at involvement of people, empowering people, participation, how we're measuring, what we are using to leverage. So we don't want to be over here. Now, again, workplaces over here certainly are not the SHARP or the VPP workplaces, but doesn't necessarily mean they're injuring workers left and right. And the culture there for years and years and years probably supports just the bare minimum of what they're doing. But through help from the Sharp Alliance folks, help from consultants, help from others, if we can move them from the left to right here, now they are, starting to incorporate the things that we expect to see of Sharp and PPP employers. All righty. Oh, there's the other slides too. We have 5 minutes. We got to do at least 2 more rounds because I'm having too much fun. I need a contestant from Team Sharp, please. Team Sharp. Team Sharp, we have 2 more topics. Team Sharp, here we go. Here we go. Thank you. All right, Team Sharp, we have 2 topics. I'm just curious how these topics will play out. 6 peas in a pod and committing to a committee.
6 Ps.
6 Ps. 6 Ps is chosen. I'm going to share my screen here in a second. 6 Ps in a pod. Here we go. I'm
Was I
going
supposed to memorize those 6 Ps?
to rip up the cover slide here. Even from somebody.
Mashed potatoes, peas are awesome.
Oh, Cliff, I love you, my friend, but I cannot share your same beautiful vision towards peas. I am
What a
not,
disappointment.
I am not a fan of peas.
That's okay, but we like Mexican.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, I'm sharing my screen. 1 minute on the clock, Miss Andrea. Oh, I gotta get over here and keep scoring because it's getting close. All right, 6 Ps in a pod. These are why these 6 Ps are important.
Ready? Go.
Adjective, verb,
Yeah, not those, but a.
Proper person, place, or thing.
Noun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Action.
And- action word.
Verb. Nice.
Check, do, act, and
Study.
If I'm testing you, I'm what?
Research.
You get one every year. Performance.
Yeah, performance, yeah.
analyze,
Skip.
Skip. Ooh,
It's,
computers are.
they can be, if they're easy ones, they are.
well-designed equipment
For the
is,
person, it's,
Easy to use.
Yeah.
there you can take it.
Next.
Yeah.
The judges accepted it.
If you take pride. in
You have a title.
Taking
Pride of,
timer,
pride of.
Title to something, you.
Own it.
Nice.
if
Right,
it's not
yeah,
this,
writing.
it's not done.
Write it down.
Contract,
Write it down. You gotta,
a list.
if you're a supervisor, you have to.
Safety
If you don't
inspections
do
should
that,
all
If you do
be,
this for OSHA, then you haven't done it.
put it on paper and file it.
on paper.
Yeah, I just draw a blank.
It's a,
That's a tough one.
It's a word blank,
The worst blank.
word.
Word,
I like Word in Excel. It's a word.
Oh, program. Process.
What's a physical paper? A physical paper is a that you filled out. Can we skip?
Did you file it?
Okay, that was time
Can we skip?
This is the word.
Sorry, folks.
Skip it.
Document.
Oh, man, that is not easy. That is not easy.
Man, the 6 Ps.
Yeah, the 6 Ps are not easy. The 6 Ps are obviously easier than others. So real quickly, before we finish with our last contestant from Team BPP, oftentimes I get into grammar again with the whole nouns versus verbs, but that goes back to conditions versus practices. And is our timing right? It's one thing to observe conditions that don't get up and leave, but it's the humans that are there that can get up and leave. So again, it's learning more about these nouns and how these nouns can create hazardous verbs. In other words, how hazardous conditions can create hazardous practices and vice versa. And again, it's just having fun with the grammar aspect of it, but it's moving nouns and verbs to conditions versus practice to make sure that our inspection teams are doing everything. And with programs and policies and plans and procedures, that's all the talk stuff, because that's the word that was hard to come up with, the document. That's all the talk stuff, but are we walking the walk? Are we implementing how our safety and health is designed? You think of the 6 Ps, that is how we are designing our safety and health through policies and plans and procedures. But we need the enforcement, we need the coaching, we need the structured OJT, we need the people, we need the implementation. So the whole design versus implementation. And then continual improvement. Are we regularly evaluating our programs out there? Do we have program owners, whether they're safety committee members or not, supervisors, leads, operators, maintenance folks, who again are attached to certain programs? There's some buy-in, there's some ownership there. And of course, we're using our subject matter experts. All right. Team VPP, let's go one last one. We have like a minute left. What was the remaining topic? It was committing to a committee, right? If memory serves.
Committee.
Just because it seems like we're having pretty fun here. Committing to a committee. Let's see how this one turns out. You all are doing me a favor too, to vet out this to see if it can work. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Oh, I forgot the wonderful theme song. Gotta have that. Here we go. All righty. Andrea, we have 1 minute on the clock. The purpose and duties of a safety committee. Let's see how we're doing here.
Yep.
People who are part of a committee are called,
Participants, members.
Bingo.
every month, you get the safety committee together and they have a
Meeting.
Bingo.
the notes that they take during that. are
Minutes.
called,
Bingo.
When you really like something, you give it a.
Endorsement.
So,
Attaboy.
Committee members may offer
Input.
suggestions.
Yeah.
The judges accepted it.
I mean, it's all over it.
You want to make safety not boring, but
Exciting, fun.
Nice.
a list of things you're gonna do at the meeting ahead of time.
Agenda.
Ooh, good.
Fair enough. Make that sound.
You're not
To become a member, someone might.
Nominate you, select you,
No, when you do a job, but you do it for free.
volunteer.
Bingo.
What a lot of people do. Yeah.
Time's up. Good job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 21 there. All righty. Yeah, I think that was the ones over here. Nice job. Nice job.
Good, right?
That was fun.
Good job.
And I don't think I need to preach more to the choir in terms of the importance of a safety committee, but if I can offer a shameless plug here. And again, thanks to Wendy and others down there at Thermo Scientific, as well as others that contributed. Currently on Oregon OSHA's website, on our safety committee webpage, if you scroll down to references, you will see this. This is what we refer to as our safety committee playbook. It is a guidance document for engaged, energized, and effective safety committees. And please, if you have found and discovered things that your safety committee has been doing that has worked well for you, and you think it would be worthy of sharing with others for the greater good. This document is not only for board safety committees out there, this document is for fledgling safety committees. This document is chock full of realistic, practical ideas, activities, solutions, things that safety committees have done that have prospered, that have found value, that have worked very well within their organization. So if you send anything to me sharing what your safety committee is doing and you want to share it for the greater good and for others to learn from, please send it to me in an email. I will put it in this playbook. I want to keep this updated throughout the year. I want to update it maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year. And I will attach your name, if you are comfortable with that, to the suggestions that were brought forward. So it's the safety committee playbook. It's currently at 7 pages now. I don't want to make it too long where folks will not want to touch it because it just looks too big, but it's formatted and structured very, using a word that we used earlier, user-friendly by our graphics folks, to really, again, highlight those innovative ideas out there that safety committees have been doing that they have found that have worked very well.
And Craig, thank you so much for doing that. And this is just another kudos to Oregon OSHA for taking the reins on things like this. I have shared that nationwide with our corporate EHS team. It's also been very helpful for other sites in reinvigorating their safety committees post-COVID.
Yeah, well, and thank you, Wendy, again for your contributions. And that's exactly what we want this playbook to do, because oftentimes when you grab a publication or some sort of guidance, it can, regurgitate the rule that we already know. It doesn't really offer a whole lot more in terms of innovative ideas or suggestions. So I wanted to go away from something that just simply regurgitates the expectations that we have of safety committees and actually ties in very specific things, whether it's surrounding inspections, whether it's how to make meetings fun, whether it's, paper trail related things that safety committees are doing, but still user friendly enough where everybody's on board with it. That's the stuff that I want in this guidebook. So I've learned from my fellow staffers here at Oregon OSHA. I've learned from employers. I've had notes over the years that I compiled and put in this playbook. So it is on our safety committee page. And I know I told you we would be out by noon because you all are busy in here. I kept you 5 minutes past. Wendy and Ashley and Mark, anything from the clouds before we close?
I would just like to thank everybody for coming. Appreciate everybody's support, and thank you, Craig. Excellent job.
Well,
Thank you for the interactive activity. It's always fun.
Well, thank you all for being my guinea pigs. Again, I've done Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and Family Feud before, but I wanted to try something new with folks that I knew I was going to have today and folks that would be overly participatory and willing to do it. So I leveraged, and I knew that you guys would be up for it.
That was very well.
You all